So someone asked me about what happened between me and the police and why would I contact the chief of police in my local city. October 1st, 2019, I had a altercation with an individual that began with them pushing me and me with my complex PTSD basically getting triggered and responding and trying to contain that person. And I crossed the line and they crossed the line and it wasn't good. And the police were called. And when the police showed up, I was sitting on my couch trying to process everything. And I didn't answer the door for a bit, but then I was like, fuck, I gotta go answer the door. So I answered the door. I'm talking to the cop. The first thing they tried to do is put a flashlight in my eyes. And I said, officer, I'm autistic. Please don't shine that light in my eyes. And now I'm starting to go into a meltdown. So they're asking me questions about what happened. And I told them my story. And I was bleeding out of my nose. And they asked, you're bleeding out of your nose. What happened? I was like, I don't know when that happened. I just know that the other person did it. And it's a lot to process. It's hard to remember, frankly, because I was going into a meltdown. Anyway, they were kind of rushing me through questioning. And they didn't take any pictures of me or my injuries. They noted in their report that I had a bloody nose and that I had a scratch over my eye, but they didn't take any photographs of that. They did take photographs of the other party. They noted on the police report that I appeared to be nervous and irrational. And as people who know autism might know, when you're going into a meltdown and you're stimming and you're having a hard time, you might appear nervous and irrational if someone doesn't understand autism. But I told them I was autistic multiple times. Eventually, they got to the point that they said that I was under arrest and that I should turn around, and they placed cuffs on me, and I asked them to not cuff me in the back, but to cuff me in the front so I could be more comfortable and able to breathe, because I was having a hard time breathing since I was kind of panicking. And they did not comply. I guess I understand why, because proper procedure is to put your hands behind your back. Then they put me in the car, and I'm starting to freak out. Like, I'm in full meltdown mode. I'm screaming that I'm not okay. They proceeded to, I guess, talk to the other party, and while they're talking to the other party, I'm just left in a car screaming, uncomfortable, saying I'm not okay repeatedly, and further melting down. And I feel like it would have been prudent to have one officer take me wherever they wanted to take me, while the other officer, because there were 3 officers on site and 2 police cars, the other officer could have stayed behind and done what needed to be done. So after the fact, I hired an attorney, and there were depositions done, and the officers basically admitted they didn't follow procedure and should have checked the address records or the name records for any other incidents, which would have concluded that this wasn't the first incident, and in the other incident, I was not the primary aggressor. And in the report, they didn't write down my story at all. They just said that my story didn't match the other person's story. And I firmly believe that they concluded I was the primary aggressor because of the nervousness that they felt that they were seeing, which had nothing to do with me being nervous, but all to do with me being in a meltdown. So I talked to the chief today, and she understood what I was saying and empathized and wanted, I guess, to rectify the situation by seeing if I would come in and do some training on why or how to interact with autistics who might be escalated. And I'm not making excuses for my behavior, because I didn't do everything right that night. I fucked up too. But I didn't start it. And so it's been hard to have the repercussions of that night haunting me when it wasn't something that I started. I'm not a violent person by nature. I can think of one time I've punched someone who was also assaulting me, and I punched in self-defense. But I think that the way the cops, just the fact that they didn't take any pictures of me, they took the flashlight out of my eyes and they claimed that that's why they didn't take any pictures of me. But that's kind of fucked up because you should take pictures of both parties if there's injuries. And they noted injuries. I mean, like I said, I was bleeding out of my nose. And the fact that they noted that I was nervous and irrational. They noted that I was autistic too, but they didn't connect those two pieces. So they didn't say, oh, this person was seemingly nervous and irrational, probably because they were autistic and having a meltdown. Meaning lack of eye contact, shifting on my feet. I was rocking, I was stimming, I was telling them, you're going too fast, I can't process your question, I need more time. And I didn't get that stuff. Anyway, I'm rambling, but the bottom line is I'm thrilled that the chief asked me to come volunteer and talk about what happened up from my perspective and different ways that officers could handle people who claim or state or show that they're autistic. Because our experience is different and we process stress differently. For example, they asked me if I was hurt at one point and I didn't know. And I said, I can't feel my body right now. I didn't know that my nose was hurt until they pointed out that I was bleeding out of it. But then when they put the cuffs on me and I had my arms behind my back, I was incredibly sensitive to that feeling and I felt pain. So it's classic, autistic pendulum of experience with the body. It sucked really bad. And I'm still dealing with the repercussions of that. So I'm hoping I can educate some officers in my city and make things better so that someone else doesn't have quite the experience that I had. There's your answer to what happened.